Our storyline centered around helping a fictional farmer become more sustainable. Each week, the students would add a new item to the farm that would collect the specific renewable energy they learned about that day. This made the storyline constant throughout the unit and gave purpose to the students' new knowledge. It answered the age-old question, why are we learning this? We then added a surprise on the last day to make the storyline feel more real and relevant. This surprise was a video of Jersey farmer thanking the students for all of their help. We then gave them each an engineering certificate of completion. The purpose of this storyline was to motivate and empower students to embody the characteristics of an engineer. Connecting information to nearby environments and making the content relatable made the information more personable for students so they could then connect it.
This led into their class management procedure of thinking like an engineer, where students were given the role of being an energizer. A good energizer, E, embraced the lesson, N, had neighborly behavior, E, had efficient actions, R, used respectful words, G, were gentle with materials, I, imagined you're an engineer, Z, had a focus zone, E, enjoyed the activities, R, was responsible for learning, and S, made smart choices. Each day, the students were reminded of these behaviors throughout the lesson and were assessed at the end of every lesson on how well they fulfilled the role of being an energizer. For each role they did well, the class would receive an energy bar. This was consistent with the expectations that Ms. Mathis had in the classroom and followed a similar point system. Each week, we did a refresher on a new way to hold the students accountable on the roles of an energizer. As the weeks progressed, the students were collectively held responsible as a group, then as a table, and finally individually. This taught us the benefit of having consistent norms within a classroom. These norms exemplified the values that were critical to reaching our objectives and strengthening our relationships.
We used the 5E model in our lesson planning and organization. We did this to make our lessons student-centered. We hope to maintain student engagement throughout while using their natural curiosities to understand key aspect of each resource. Exploration often came from the experiments, engagement from group activities and discussions, explanation from our proven results, and elaboration from the slides. This model showed us the importance of achieving engagement from the beginning and how to effectively maintain it throughout. By prioritizing hands-on activities, the students were able to contribute to each other's learning and play an active role in each lesson. For example, in our wind energy lesson, students were put into groups and explored the effects of what wind speed had on the amount of energy. Collecting data, being hands-on, and reflecting on our why is displayed the importance of the 5E model on utilizing students' science processing skills.
For our unit of renewable energy, we chose to have one formal assessment and an informal assessment for each individual lesson. At the beginning of our unit, we gave students quizzes that assessed their knowledge on energy and the content for our lessons. At the end of our assessment, an individual score and a class average was collected from the class. For our cumulative lesson, students were reassessed on their knowledge with the same quizzes where we could analyze it if our objectives were met and at the end of our unit. For our informal assessments, each lesson corresponded with an engineering design where students could collect data and make scientific observations. Each worksheet included a hypothesis, data table, or question, a conclusion, and a reflection. Some additional features included observations, drawings, and matching. The assessments were analyzed after each class and informed the type of activities and lesson format based on how well students responded to the previous lesson. This taught us that our students had more success in understanding the content when they participated in an experiment and were able to visualize the form of energy.
We added differentiation to each lesson by accommodating our English language learners. In every worksheet and activity, there was an English to Spanish translation of key information. There's a large percentage of Spanish speakers in our class that benefited from this accommodation. It allowed them to be more included and better show their understanding. We also added differentiation to our lesson by allowing students to move around the room, work alone, together, and as a class. Every experiment also offered a physical example to provide real-world evidence of the renewable resources at work. We additionally implemented flexible grouping by switching up the groups of students working together based on their opinions, location, and/or interest. This increased student communication and allowed students to open their minds to new ideas and perspectives.
Merry Christmas!